So will there be an upcoming government shutdown? Many people think that it's on its way. It's 2 months out, September 30th. Right now, our federal government is operating off of a $1.7 trillion continuing resolution. Now, Chuck Schumer and the Democrats, they had a chance to stop this in March. Mid-March, you probably remembered. The Senate needed 60 votes to pass a filibuster, but the Democrats were fine letting it go through. No contention whatsoever as far as stopping it. They thought there was more danger in stopping the government, making the government shut down. So they pretty much just submitted to the will of the Republicans and President Trump. This is because of the time of year. We were looking at March, spring break, traveling. You want to congest those airports. You want to slow down TSA. Next thing is the IRS, tax season, tax refunds. They didn't want to slow it down. But what about the end of September, starting in October? That's all gone. Chuck Schumer has already received a ton of backlash for laying over and doing whatever the Republicans wanted in March. He was promoting like a book, and people were coming out to protest him. He had to cancel book signing events because that's how much backlash he was under. So how does he feel about it this time? Is he more eager to kind of direct the Democrats to take a stand, have a clear outline? We're not just going to roll over on some of these major points. Now, I get it. Right now, the majority, the House, the Senate, it favors Republicans. And when it comes to President Trump, in his influence, I think he wouldn't mind a shutdown. A lot of people are saying, well, the president wouldn't want that. It would look bad. But you have to understand who is the base of President Trump. It's anti-establishment folks, right? That's largely who the base is. So if you're putting out this message of starve the beast, and that's essentially what you're doing with the federal government or the federal workforce, then everyone's going to be behind that, right? At least the people that support President Trump, they're going to be behind that message. As of right now, only 2 of the 12 spending bills have been passed through the House. So they're really behind. This is what leads me to believe there's probably going to be a government shutdown. And if I had to assign a number to it, I would say 70%. 70% likelihood that it gets shut down. And what happens if it is shut down? So with the RIFs, the reduction in forces, those will probably play out already if they've been executed, if they've already sent the RIF notice. But with one caveat, human resources is pretty much essential in the RIF proceedings. Human resources is typically not a critical needed job, so they could be furloughed. So you could see things slow down with the RIFs. Now, the hiring freeze is already in effect right now, so we already have mission-critical exempt positions that are getting hired. But once again, HR is the linchpin. If you're in the talent pipeline, if you're getting onboarded, that would dramatically slow down. And then discretionary spending would come to a halt. So what does that mean for you? That means museums, parks, right? They're going to be probably closed. You have about 30 to 40% of the federal workforce that will be furloughed. That means they stay home. They don't get paid, at least not right now, because they will get paid once the government resumes operations. And that's something that a lot of people aren't aware of. They're like, oh yeah, we're shutting down the government. Let's get all these bureaucrats out of here. But essentially what you're doing is you're funding a workforce that is static. It is not moving. It is sedentary. It doesn't move. But you're still funding it with taxpayer money, because regardless of how long the government is shut down, whether it be 1 week, 1 month, 3 months, it doesn't matter. Once it resumes, the paychecks go back. It's back pay. Now, it impacts federal workers that are living paycheck to paycheck more, or if you only have enough for 1 month of expenses and the government is shut down for longer than a month, then yeah, sure, it's going to impact you. But for the rest of the federal workforce, and I'm talking about the 60 to 70% that are not exempt, that will not get furloughed, you know what they get? They get to come into work without getting a paycheck. So this includes the military. So Army, Navy, Marines, doesn't matter. I was in uniform one time when we were about to experience a government shutdown, and they told us ahead of time, hey, listen, it doesn't matter what you hear on the news. It doesn't matter what your relatives or your family is telling you. If we're shut down, you're coming to work. Otherwise, you'll be AWOL, away without leave. So you're coming into work, and there's a lot of disgruntled people, as you can imagine. Who wants to come into work consecutively, day after day, week after week, knowing you're not getting a paycheck. But these individuals, they're still getting a paycheck on the back end, just like the furloughed folks. Another bit of information that makes me believe that this is going to happen is Chuck Schumer told the Republicans that if they pass the rescission of $9 billion to public broadcasting and foreign aid, if they were to do that, then he was prepared to respond with a government shutdown. And the Republicans did it. They pulled back. They clawed back $9 billion of approved congressional funding. And this is not a one-off. This is going to be a strategy. So if you look at things right now, what the Republicans are after is what they've been after for the last few decades. Is essentially boosting up national defense, pumping money into the Department of Defense. Now, defense is a word that we think, okay, in order to improve our defensive posture. But no, it's pumping money into contractors that are developing these theoretical high-tech tanks and systems and missiles that will probably never get used. Because you understand what the real threat is, right? It's cybersecurity, it's drones. It's hacking, it's drones. That's the future of warfare. It's not all this other fantasy things that you throw $1 trillion at. So the DoD's budget has reached a record high this year. So understand that, and let me know, how does that sit with you? That we're $1 trillion budget for 1 year, and we're still talking about being fiscally responsible. How can you say the two things at the same time? How can you say, hey, I'm going to be fiscally responsible, and oh yeah, I need $1 trillion for this agency? So anyway, defense and immigration. Border security. That's what the Republicans, they don't mind growing the government if it grows it in those two areas. Democrats, what we're looking at, healthcare, housing, education, and foreign aid. That's kind of the pillars. I probably missed a couple, but that's kind of the pillars that we're dealing with over there. They can't come to an agreement. Also, we have another shocker. President Trump wants to hire thousands of federal workers, and it's not for the Department of Defense or DHS. Instead, it's for one of the most hated federal agencies out there, the IRS. 11,000 people. So if you haven't heard about that, I want you to check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.